After adding a blank page, you are, of course, going to want to add some content to that page. So this short video is going to show you how to add some text and introduce you to the hierarchy of containers that all media elements sit inside. So let's start with adding our first media element by using the first section at the bottom of the screen here. We're going to go ahead and add an H1 heading text element. Now, right off the bat, you see a couple things happen. Obviously, you've got the text heading H1 style applied, and you see 5 buttons at the bottom. We will get into each one of these in a separate video. But what you need to notice and understand is that every media type or media element that you put into a Domino Flow project sits inside of a hierarchy of containers. And it's these containers that give us the ability to be responsive and have each one of your pages and the content within those pages respond to the different sizes of devices being used to view your content. So in this case, we're going to look up here at the black bar, and this is where you're going to see the hierarchy, and it's going to be the same every single time with the exception of what type of media you use. So in this case, we chose a rich text element that was already preset to the H1 heading style. And so what you'll see here highlighted with the little arrow at the top is rich text. Obviously, very simple. So if we select outside of it, basically deselect it and just have the page selected, all of that goes away. It's no longer selected, and now the page is selected. Okay, let's go back and reselect that text element and take a look at each one of the containers that it sits inside. Now, you're not going to be able to see these containers and your user isn't going to see them either. This is just the structure that makes up the content and how it sits on your page. So the media element sits inside of a group, and you can have multiple groups inside of a row. And so you can also think of them as columns. But that's why this part can be a little bit confusing, because it immediately says row 1, group 1. But once you get into more complex sections on a page, this becomes important because the image you're looking for might be in group 3 or group 4 of row 2 or 3. So just know that this is the group container, and the group container sits inside of, yes, you guessed it, the row, and the row sits inside of the section, and the section obviously sits on the page, and the page sits inside of your current project. So did you notice, were you following me along in the black bar here as I mentioned each one, or did you notice the blue outline for each one of the containers as we clicked through that hierarchy? Let's start over, and if you did one, do the other. If you did the other, do the other one, or vice versa, and take a look. So we'll notice, again, this is rich text. We're going to click on the group. You'll notice that this blue line expands. And as you click on the group, the system says, oh, you've selected the group. Would you like to add another layout to the group to add more content? So that's what this plus button here is for. So the blue line expands. And then as we go up to the row, you'll see that the row expands even more. The blue line of the row begins to expand more. And then the row, as we move up to section, pretty much stays the same. But just know that that row is inside of a section. And that section is the main container for your content. Now, the fun thing about this is that you can stack sections on a page within Flow. And that's why I like to call Flow pages the bottomless page, because you can keep stacking sections as long as you have content that you want to add onto that one page. So that's just a brief introduction into this hierarchy of content. I'll be talking more about this with each one of the other videos that where we are discussing content, and I'll just highlight these. It's an extremely important concept to begin to understand as you work with Flow. And it's also the place where I see people frequently stumble as they learn. So take care to notice this, to notice the properties that change as you select on each one. But in general, adding content to a page is very, very, very easy. Just know that when you add it, you're adding that element, and that element is automatically coming with a bunch of containers, unless you've added it to existing containers on the page, and we'll get to that next.